Facebook. Let me refresh. Did it not go in there? Okay, something's up. Let me see. Hold on a second. It says it's live, but I'm looking in Facebook and it's not showing it's in Facebook. So I'm trying to
select College Sports Fanatics as a destination.
Yep, I got that and the YouTube page in there. Oh, there it is. Okay, let me put it up top. Pin to featured. All right, refresh. All right, I think we got it rocking and rolling. Let me see. Okay, cool. It's up. All right. So let's rock and roll, man.
All right.
So let's pull up the schedule here. What do you think, first of all, about the playoffs matchups? I'm sure we're gonna have some salty people.
I've caught a lot of crap about my projections for the last few days because I call it like I see it. I started following and projecting on my own back in 2007 when 2-loss LSU. I was leaving the stadium at Death Valley after we had lost in overtime to Arkansas. It was our second loss of the season. And my brother was like, man, we just lost the national championship in Tiger Stadium. I said, well, let me look at what's coming up. So I said, well, if Pitt beats WVU, if Oklahoma loses the Big 12 championship, if this happens, if there was like 4 or 5 games that I was like, if these things happen and LSU beats Tennessee in the SEC championship game, we'll leap idle Georgia and we'll be number 2. LSU play number 1 Ohio State. And then it happened. And ever since then, I've just been all in, focused on projections. So I called the projections.
You did.
And, Bama fans are like, you're an idiot. And, fans of other programs, when I said that TCU could lose and still get in, they were like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, here I am vindicated.
You are.
I called it right. The only thing I got wrong was the final 2 spots. I thought they might drop TCU to 4 and let Ohio State in at 3. Because it all just depends really on that point where the selection committee wanted Ohio State and Michigan to put. Did they want them to get it out of the way in the first, or did they want to set up the probability that they meet for a rematch in the championship game? So they give. But I also said that it was possible TCU wouldn't move an inch based on an overtime loss to a top 10 team by 3 points and being 5-1 against the top 25. So I would say I'm not surprised at all by the committee's final standings. And it's exactly the way I would have picked it if I was picking it myself. 5 Alabama, 6 Tennessee. I agree with that. Tennessee fans can scream that they should be ahead of Alabama because of the heads-up win, but Alabama didn't lose convincingly to 2 different teams.
Mm-hmm.
You did.
That's right.
So it is what it is. And they say, everybody likes to talk about those top 25 wins because we're talking about quality of wins, right? But if quality of wins matter, then quality of losses also has to matter. So you can't have your cake and eat it too, right?
That's right. Like it's like how TCU, when I was looking at TCU, I'm gonna be honest, I had not watched TCU till yesterday. That quarterback is a stud. Holy crap. He willed that team to overtime. And so you can't fault TCU for losing in overtime in the Big 12 championship. So that was a good call, not dropping them. And I tell you what, man, TCU might have a real shot to really be competitive. I thought that TCU, whoever they match up against, would get blown out. But, man, with that quarterback, that dude, man, did you see when he scored that touchdown in overtime? Dude couldn't even get up. He was gassed. He did all that work for them. So, I mean, good on the committee for not dropping them because you just
get a lot of respect.
I mean,
think about the perception that he's gained from his teammates when he goes out and there's a performance like that where he's left it all out on the field, all of his blood, sweat, and tears, all of his energy. They're gonna get up for this kid when it's time to go and play their third. So they're gonna play Michigan, and it's not gonna be a walk in the park for Michigan. Michigan plays really good defense,
Right.
So I wouldn't expect it to be a high-scoring affair. TCU, you'll say Big 12, they don't play real defense in the Big 12, but TCU can play defense, and they've shown all season that they can come back. That's what they've done all year, and that's why at the beginning when they first started doing the ranking shows, that TCU was on the outside looking in, because even though they had this good record against the top 25, they weren't as dominant as the committee would have liked them to appear. But they keep stacking up wins. You keep getting wins against the top 25. Before this, like I said, before the Big 12 championship game, they're 5-0 against the top 25 with the toughest strength of schedule in football, in college football. So an overtime loss by 3 points in the conference championship, not enough to ding them. And, so the Michigan TCU match is going to be an interesting matchup. I think that the Georgia-Ohio State will be a good game, but I don't know if Ohio State has enough for Georgia.
I don't either. I mean,
and CJ Stroud may win the Heisman this year.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I mean, like I said, I'm going to admit I have not watched TCU all year, but that kid at TCU, that quarterback, is he in the Heisman running for that? I mean, if he's not, he should be, because that was incredible.
I haven't seen. I'll pull up whatever the Heisman finalists are. I don't think that he made it.
Because, man, if he's even in the running, man, it'd be interesting to see what they do with the voting after that Big 12 championship, because he's the only reason they had a shot to win that game. He took it over.
So Caleb Williams is the guy that everybody's watching in the Heisman race from USC, but I think that his stock probably takes a little bit of a hit because of losing to Utah for the second time this season. But I mean, it's another performance if you watch that game where you call him gritty. I mean, he was obviously hurt and still doing everything he could to try and will USC to a win. But at the same time, I don't know who the backup quarterback at USC is, but if you're that hurt, where you can't do the things that have made you successful all season, then maybe you should have taken a step back and allowed the backup to come in and possibly given your team a better chance to win the game. Because after a while, Utah put it on an interception, a fumble recovery. Utah just took over the game, and with a guy that's not 100%, he wasn't even 50%. If you watch that game, it's not going to happen. So at that point, I know you want to be the leader, and I know you want to be out there. And and he said in the press conference afterwards, it's not about how I feel. It's about the moment. And the moment's bigger than how I feel. But you may have cost your team a legit chance to actually compete in that game. So, but he competed, and he's a tough kid.
That's the kind of way I look at what Jaden did yesterday. I was screaming I was like, man, just please get out of there. But he's gutsy. Think about it. You played ball, right?
Yes.
You've been hurt playing ball?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Me too.
Couldn't lift my shoulder one game.
Right. And the coach goes, "Are you okay?" You're going to say, "Oh yeah, absolutely."
Yeah,
if you can walk, you're going to be out there, you're going to pay for it later. But I don't know, man. It was just real gutsy to see these guys get out there and just compete for their team. And the same thing with that kid from TCU. He was blood up, bruised up, beat up, couldn't breathe. And he's out there just competing. It's really, really impressive.
So the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman is still Caleb, and second highest odds is Max Duggan from TCU. Third highest odds is Stetson, which is odd because I haven't heard anyone mention Stetson's name when it comes to the Heisman watch list. But this is a guy that has lost one game in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and looking at the SEC championship game, that's just going to help it out. But I'm going to be honest, as good as that Georgia defense was, you could have had the backup quarterback out there playing. It was just it was nasty. But I would love to see Duggan go out there and win it because somebody mentioned right here. Let me see. They're talking about he's not looked at because he's in the Big 12. I mean, well, didn't Vince Young win the Heisman? I mean, Oklahoma's had a couple Heisman winners, so I don't see that as a legitimate thing.
Yep.
So,
Jalen was on the Heisman list when he was at Oklahoma. Obviously, quarterback for the Panthers and all the living in the stadium. Come on.
I can't remember his name either. How are you talking about?
Oh, I can't believe I can't think of his name. I mean, he's on all these stupid commercials. I mean, they're funny. But traded from the Cleveland Browns because they took Deshaun and, damn it. Why can't I think of his name? It's because I'm a Saints fan and I'm biased and I don't care about the Carolina Panthers.
No, and then
But Kyler was also a Heisman winner. So, I mean, Big 12 quarterbacks.
So Big 12 actually has a lot of Heisman winners.
Yes.
Especially when Lincoln Riley was out there at Oklahoma. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
But this user says he thinks TCU takes it because Michigan's main threat is out with a knee injury.
Of the running back.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I don't think he's going to have to do it. I mean, if they're going to win that, Duggan's going to have to just will them to win. I mean, it's going to be a nasty, nasty game. It's just, can they survive that? I mean, I don't know, but let's see. So that's the playoffs. How about we start making a couple people upset? All right. At number 5, who was it, Dave? Alabama. How many people were saying that Alabama's going to make it as soon as USC lost?
Not just when USC lost, but when USC and TCU lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, not so fast. I gave him a little Lee Corso.
That's right. Little homage. But yeah, that to me, Alabama, I mean, the only argument they had going for it was that they had 2 close losses. They lost by 14 points.
Yeah, but they had 2 really close wins that could have easily been lost.
Absolutely.
I mean,
they should have lost that Texas game for sure.
They struggled against A&M.
Mm-hmm.
They struggled against Texas. So, I mean, yeah, they had 2 losses, but they were also 2 plays away from being undefeated, but they were also 2 plays away from having 4 losses.
That's right.
Alabama fans, I get it. You're used to being in the conversation, but this just wasn't your year. This wasn't as dominant an Alabama team as we've seen in past. And, 1 loss is better than 2. That's the best I've got for you.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can't tell these fans that because all they see is the 2 losses. When you bring up the Texas game and the A&M game, you say, well, you could have had 4 losses. They don't want to hear that crap, They only want to look at the positive, not the negative. But it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to be really motivated since they're not in the playoffs because, I mean, what happened the last time they weren't in the playoffs?
I mean, they lost to Georgia in the championship.
Let's see
they ended up exactly where I thought they'd end up. They're in the Sugar Bowl. I thought they would make the Sugar Bowl. I thought that Tennessee would go on and play the top ACC team that wasn't in Clemson. So for the SEC, everything happened exactly the way I thought it would, and they get K-State in the Sugar Bowl. So they don't have to go far away. We're not far from Tuscaloosa. Their fans are going to travel well. And what SEC team doesn't love beating up on a Big 12 team?
I know, though, but, man, the way that – I mean, we're talking about how good TCU looked and the guts they had, man, but just Kansas State, that was impressive. That was really, really impressive to see what they did. So I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park.
Kansas State had some tough losses, but they also had some pretty shocking wins. And, if there's one team historically from the Big 12 that goes into the championship game and gives the clear-cut favorite a problem, it's Kansas State. I don't know why that is, but it's happened several times. It happened to Oklahoma more than once. So,
and Oklahoma still got in the BCS championship.
Right, against LSU in a game that probably should have been LSU versus USC.
The game everybody wanted to see
was LSU versus USC in the championship game.
Absolutely.
Once K-State beat Oklahoma, the luster for LSU Oklahoma was gone. So then you had USC and LSU that both won their conferences that year, and those were the teams that deserved to be in the BCS championship. Right. Do I agree with the AP poll awarding USC their championship? No, because they also agreed to be a part of the BCS system, and then just because they didn't like one result one year, they were like, screw this, we're going to award, but USC didn't play in the championship game. They could be recognized by the AP as the champion, but they didn't play in the championship game, and they weren't crowned the champions of college football that year. So to me, it's who cares?
Yeah, but they're going to claim it. You know that.
Oh, well, I mean.
They're going to claim it.
Again, you can claim it. Just like Alabama claims all those illegitimate titles.
It's
but
funny.
Did you actually win it? No.
Now, the Cotton Bowl. Oh, I don't like that. Tulane's going to get smashed, I think.
But, it seems like every year the Group of Five winner is offered as a sacrificial lamb to a good team, and they get the Trojans.
And they're going to be a pissed off team, too.
They are going to be mad.
Blood.
Caleb Williams has about a month to get himself healthy and ready to go. And
if he even plays.
Right. But Tulane, they're right in my backyard. I hope the best for them, but
we'll pray for you.
That's a bad draw for Tulane.
Yep. And then this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And the name fits. The Orange Bowl with Clemson and Tennessee.
Yes.
That is hilarious.
The All Orange Bowl.
That's going to be easy to market. Hooker's he's out.
So the question is, who wins that game, Clemson or Tennessee?
I don't know.
Tennessee doesn't have Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, and Clemson, they don't have a quarterback worth a damn. So I don't know.
Mean, he hasn't been what they were hoping he would be.
Right.
But
after Lawrence, they were talking about that he was going to be better.
The funny thing about the Orange Bowl is it's Tennessee versus Clemson, so it is the All Orange Bowl, but it's featured by two teams who got beat consecutively by South Carolina.
That's so funny. I didn't think about that. So South Carolina's going to sit there and watch that, but like, yeah, we did that. We took y'all out of playoff contention and put you in the Orange Bowl. You're welcome. That's sad. Let's see. Rose Bowl, Utah and Penn State. Penn State's actually rebounded really nice this year.
They have. And that's going to be a good matchup too. That's it. If you like college football, there are several really good bowl games that have that are set up that are going to be interesting watches. So it all just like there's like we talked about Tulane USC. I don't know that I even care to watch that game.
No,
just because I'm relatively certain that USC is going to win by 3 touchdowns.
The only bad thing is that's the only game on too. So
that day,
that kind of sucks. But let's see what they got. So the 16th, no one cares about Miami, Ohio, UAB. I'm trying to see what games did you see on there that you're really looking at to watch that are not the New Year's 6. Well, besides of course LSU, but not the New Year's 6 and not the playoffs.
I mean, so obviously I like I think all of the matchups on December 30th, 31st. Well, I'd say all of them. So Tennessee, Clemson on the 30th. That should be a good game. my gut tells me that Alabama is going to punch Kansas State in the face in the Sugar Bowl. USC is going to destroy Tulane. Penn State and Utah is going to be really competitive on January 2nd. That's also the day that LSU plays
Purdue.
Purdue, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure that's going to be really Purdue played really hard for most of the game against Michigan with a lot of pride. So I don't think that it's going to be a walk in the park for either team. Both teams have a lot of pride to play for. Bowl games are all about recruiting and money. So it'll be interesting to see how competitive the LSU Purdue game is. Arkansas versus Kansas. I'm not really interested in watching that. Wisconsin versus OK State. I would say that OK State probably takes that. Texas Tech and Ole Miss. The way Ole Miss fell off after losing to LSU kind of blew my mind because, they lost to us, then they lost to Bama, then they lost to Mississippi State, and I was it got
they finally got some competition.
Right. Armed Forces Bowl at Air Force versus Baylor. Baylor should handle that one fairly simply. Florida State and Oklahoma might be a good game. We'll see how Venables does against the team. Florida State that probably surprised even its own fan base was a little bit better, kind of like LSU ahead of the schedule as far as what the projections were for the season. Illinois versus Mississippi State. I don't think anybody cares. Notre Dame versus South Carolina. I
saw that. I was like, ooh, yeah, that looks enticing. Now you got Beamer balls. Well, they out there got their swagger.
Right. I'm actually interested to see what happens between them and South Carolina. Syracuse and Minnesota. Syracuse had a great season until I think there was an injury to their quarterback. Then they lost back-to-back games, and it didn't end the way that it certainly didn't end the way that it was going to start. North Carolina State and Maryland. I don't really think that's very interesting. Duke and UCF
versus Oregon State might be a interesting matchup. See how Florida does in that.
Yeah.
See, Boise and North Texas. Who cares? Seriously. I tell you, it was one. Let's see. Where was it at? Jackson State and North Carolina Central. Is that going to be prime time's last game at Jackson State?
Yes, it is. He's already accepted to Colorado.
Is he going to coach the bowl game, or is he going to go ahead and roll out and go ahead and get into recruiting though?
I don't know. So the question there. So the reason why the Brian Kelly LSU hire went the way that it did was because of the early recruiting period. LSU needed to hire a coach quickly to get in and try to secure the good recruits that Ed Orgeron had already kind of lined up. So the urgency was to get Brian Kelly named as the head coach because it's a big name in the sport, and to get him out on the recruiting trail for LSU. With this, Colorado's not exactly a powerhouse. They're not really competing with teams like, USC and Ohio State and Michigan or, any of the other major schools anywhere for recruits. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dion actually does finish out and coach that last game with his, because all the kids at Jackson State are pretty much his recruits.
Yeah,
he's got that five-star recruit that he stole from Florida State, his alma mater.
But there wasn't money involved. Don't forget.
Of course not. No, it was pride. So yeah, Florida, Oregon State, that's probably a good one. Pittsburgh versus UCLA, I would probably go with UCLA in that one. Florida versus Oregon State, I'd probably go with Florida there. I'm not sure why, but that's what my gut is telling me at the moment.
Houston versus Louisiana Independence Bowl. Ooh.
Louisiana was great when they had Billy Napier.
Yeah,
but I don't know they're going to take.
It didn't continue.
Right, Troy versus
at one
UTSA.
point this season they had the longest winning streak, didn't they? Was
Yeah, but that fell apart pretty quick.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but I don't think anyone's gonna care about that. Let me see. It's on Friday night. Crap. That means I got to freaking drive through that. Oh, never mind. I don't have to drive through that traffic because it's on the other side. I go to Bossier City, not Shreveport.
San
What
Diego
else?
State and MTSU, nobody cares. Southern Miss and Rice, I don't think anybody really cares. BYU versus SMU, again, Troy versus UTSA, Boise and North Texas, Fresno State, Washington State, South Alabama versus WKU, Georgia Southern and Buffalo. So, I mean, all the big games are, the bowl games that you really care about. Nobody cares about Bob's Auto Parts and Donuts Bowl.
Let's see. Birmingham Bowl. I don't know about East Carolina. I know Coastal Carolina is pretty good. How good is East Carolina?
I mean, is it worth talking about?
I don't know. I mean, it looks like all they say was, hey, here's 2 Carolina teams. Throw them in the same bowl together. There we go.
East Carolina and Coastal.
Yeah. Let's see. I think it's all of the really ones anyone really cares about. So, what do you think about LSU versus Purdue? Since we're both
it's
LSU
a good matchup. I mean, like I would tell anybody that's an LSU fan, the team exceeded your expectations.
Yeah.
Did they have some bad losses? Sure. Mm-hmm. Should they have lost to A&M? Probably not. But and it's not. I think watching that game, the most surprising thing was that it wasn't that A&M did anything special.
No.
They did one thing over and over and over, and LSU couldn't stop it. So that's LSU's fault. I think the surprising thing was, for at least the first couple of possessions, LSU actually moved the ball yesterday, and then after JD went out and Nuss came in, Nuss threw some really nice balls. He had the one interception in the end zone, but if I'm Nuss, I think he's kind of in a place. He's like one of those things that's in a rock and a hard place, because I really believe being around the team, being around other people that write for the team, Walker Howard's the dude next year. I don't believe JD's coming back. So there's a chance for a couple of guys to go out there and improve their draft stock for LSU. That won't return. We're going to lose some players to eligibility. We're going to lose some juniors who want to go and test their mettle in the draft. So, but we have a good recruiting class coming in. Mm-hmm. There are some very interesting players that are in the transfer portal. So we'll see how some of these major programs and all this NIL money gets tossed around and who ends up where. There's some, like the Notre Dame quarterback hit the transfer portal. I was surprised to see that because it started off bad for Notre Dame this year, losing to Marshall, and there was another really bad loss, but they
rebounded really nice.
They went on a nice little run, and then they got smacked by USC. But I mean, USC had Caleb Williams, who, as we've already stated, is going to be the front runner for the Heisman Trophy this year. On the stage, I would expect it probably to be Caleb, Duggan, and CJ Stroud. Mm-hmm. That's who I expect to see. I think Stetson Bennett should get a little love. I think that he should be on that stage too. The kid has done nothing but good things for Georgia, and he's only lost one football game in the last 2 years. So to keep a guy like Stetson off the stage, I think would be a miscarriage of justice. Even if he doesn't win it, put him on the stage.
I just think a lot of people look at Georgia and they don't say Georgia's winning because of this kid here. They look at the defense. But, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, if you don't lose any games except for the SEC championship last year, and while you've been there, I mean, you should at least, be invited. But
so he didn't win the SEC championship last year, but he got the rematch in the national championship game and won it.
There's a lot of people in the group talking about they were laughing that they didn't win him. Like, are you serious? I mean, if I had a choice, I'd rather win the national championship than the SEC championship, you know?
Yeah.
But
and you can't say, well, the SEC championship means more because you're playing an SEC opponent. They played Alabama in the national championship game.
And they did something that's very hard to do, is beat a team twice. Alabama was trying to beat a team twice. I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice to just invite them, but I'm not gonna lie. After what I saw yesterday, that kid from
you're sold on Max Duggan.
That was absolutely impressive. And they were even talking about on the broadcast about, you know, the Heisman. I'm like, wow, this kid, he willed that team to that. I mean, they would have not even made it to overtime. I mean, those two huge runs. I mean,
the thing about,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even a TCU fan, and I was sitting there cheering for them to win because of that kid, you know. So that was amazing. But
that's what makes sports great.
Mm-hmm.
You could watch a game that has nothing to do with your team.
Mm-hmm.
You could just be watching a game because you love the sport. And when you see something amazing unfolding, or you see this performance happening, you know, it doesn't instantly transform you into a fan of that person or that team, but you gain this real appreciation for what you're seeing. And that's why I love sports as much as I do, because I get to witness greatness. And so what you saw from Max Duggan, just pouring it all out, giving it every little ounce of energy that he had. And, you know, the guy could barely walk off the field.
And they were stitching him up on the sideline, just trying to clean him up. He looked like he was in a corner in a boxing match, man.
Right.
I mean, it's impressive. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm cheering for TCU in the playoffs now. Just after that, I mean, and you're right. Just one game, and you know, you see one player just pour it all out there, and you're like, wow.
So every year you talk about players and, you know, that are in consideration for the Heisman Trophy, and you talk about their Heisman moment. What was their Heisman moment?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, TCU lost that game, but the images you had of Duggan towards the end of that game, I mean, that could stir a lot of emotion, and that could make the race a lot tougher for Caleb Williams, who is probably going to run away with it. So We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens, who they invite. Again, I think it should be those four quarterbacks on that stage. I think you have to invite Stetson. You know, yes, Georgia pounds the rock in between the tackles, but they have also shown any time they needed to break it out that Stetson Bennett could drop back, read a defense, complete a pass. He has those two enormous tight ends, Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington. Washington's like 6'7". So they didn't have a lot of flash, or the biggest production was from Brock Bowers, obviously. But the guy making the plays is Stetson Bennett. And when the pocket was breaking down in those passing situations, it's Stetson Bennett creating with his feet. So he wasn't a one-dimensional quarterback either. I mean, and what better story than this kid? A walk-on quarterback that basically willed his way into the starting job at the university he dreamed of playing for.
And it reminds me a lot of what Kurt Warner did, going from bagging groceries, being a
bagging groceries.
Yeah. Well, let me see. This is going to be fun to respond to. Charlie Beard, Chucky. Here's
Chucky.
my 2 cents. I don't care about the close wins. We won the 2 losses because we played the ref.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Okay. So let's break this down. All right. So in the Tennessee game and the LSU game, they claim they lost because of the refs, but they absolutely ignore how they played against Texas and A&M. You don't hear them saying that they played the refs in those games because they won. Now, we can even go further back, right? Look at last year. Let's talk about when LSU was absolutely a dumpster fire. They almost beat Alabama. They looked terrible on the road last year. So I'm sorry, Chucky, for you to sit there and say that y'all got screwed because you played the refs means you're ignoring how Alabama has played the last 2 years. It's not just a 1 year thing. It's just this year it caught up to you.
This Alabama team was not as dominant as other editions in the past. And, yeah, they lost to Tennessee and LSU on the last play of the game, but they damn near lost 2 other games. You could be talking about 4-loss Alabama.
Yep.
And when you stack up Alabama's record, because we talk about quality wins, TCU had more quality wins than Alabama. They weren't going to drop TCU out of the top 4, especially in an overtime loss by 3 points.
And
One
think
loss
about
TCU
this.
wasn't going to get dropped by the committee for 2-loss Alabama.
And I think Alabama fans don't realize that the committee doesn't just look at your losses. They also look at all your games you've played. I mean, the committee saw the Texas game, and I know they're smart enough to realize if Ewers doesn't get hurt, they lose that game. They saw the A&M game. So the committee's not just looking at how many losses you have. They look at how you lost. Hell, they even look at how you won.
But so another part of the equation, though, that you might not think about when you're talking about TCU and Alabama is common opponents. They both played Texas.
Yep.
Now, Alabama squeaked one out against Texas, but TCU allowed less. It was 199 yards of offense for Texas versus TCU. So TCU's defense shut down Texas. No offensive touchdowns for Texas in that game. 1 of 13 on third down. So an absolutely abysmal third down conversion rate for the Longhorns in that game. And then the only touchdown that Texas scored was with about 4.5 minutes to play on a fumble by TCU that they scooped and scored. And then they didn't sniff any kind of offense. TCU absolutely dominated the Longhorns, and Alabama didn't.
And remind me, I'm looking at right here. It was at Texas.
1 loss is better than 2.
They did it at Texas.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sorry, Chucky. I can't subscribe to that. We discussed this before. Alabama need to do some of their coordinators. Something's wrong. Very, very wrong. For Alabama standards, But Alabama's going to have to do something quickly because I think that Hugh Freeze, I'm not saying he's going to be a world beater, but I think he's going to inject some energy into Auburn. Of course, you see Brian Kelly and LSU coming up the ranks. As long as Lane Kiffin decides to stay at Ole Miss, they're going to be a problem for Alabama. So the West is getting tougher. And then we saw what A&M can do when they have motivation and they want to do something. So I really, truly think that, Alabama's window for winning these continual SEC West and then SEC championships and national championships is getting smaller and smaller.
And, for Florida fans, the season didn't go as well as they wanted, nor did the recruiting class go as good as they wanted it to. But Billy Napier, from all accounts, is a good coach. And if you give him the time, he's completely capable of building that program. So then you get Florida back in the SEC because Florida's been non-existent for years now. If Tennessee and Heupel can keep that train going, you've got Georgia that is rolling right now. So you could have 3 quality teams in the East, and then you go back to the West where Alabama has Nick Saban, LSU has Brian Kelly, Hugh Freeze just landed at Auburn, Lane Kiffin's at Ole Miss. Then you're going to have Texas and Oklahoma come in a year or two. And then I think we're doing away with East and West. I think we're just going to be one conference with 16 teams, and the best 2 records at the end are going to play each other. And I think that's the way it'll shake out. We're still going to have a conference championship game, but it won't be the East winner versus the West winner at that point. So, then Tennessee will have a legitimate bitch, or the tiebreakers might work in their favor that year, as opposed to how how it worked out for him this year. But
well, you forgot South Carolina, man. I really think that what Beamer's doing, man, is going to steal some confidence, and they can build on that.
Oh, sure. I mean, when you knock off, the number 5 team in the country, and then you knock off, your biggest rival because you play Clemson every year, that speaks volumes to what Beamer is able to accomplish with his players and the belief that he has in them and the belief that they have in him. So that, I mean, you can see that there's buy-in there. Do I expect that that's going to be a common occurrence? I mean, it's tough to say. Dabo Swinney is a very, very, very good coach. Clemson has been a well-oiled machine. This year hasn't gone the way the last few have. But look at what Clemson's had in the past. They've had a really great signal caller. Trevor Lawrence was a phenomenal college football player. Watson, phenomenal college football player. The QB1 at Clemson this year it wasn't as good as it needed to be. There wasn't as much consistency at that position that's required to compete at that high level. But I mean, Clemson was still in the ACC championship. They still were number 1 in the ACC, and now they're going to get to go out and play in the All Orange Bowl against DJ is trash.
Coming from a Texas fan. Hey, all jokes aside, though, with Texas, man, when they come into the SEC, we were sitting there saying that they wouldn't compete. They're going to compete more than Oklahoma looks like,
But see, if you're an Oklahoma fan and you're watching this, I'm going to tell you what I told a friend of mine who's a USC fan. Look how great we're doing. Lincoln Riley is the truth. And I was like, oh, yeah? I said, what was USC before Lincoln got there? And what would USC have been had Lincoln Riley not stolen Caleb Williams and Mario Williams from Oklahoma?
Yeah.
And there was another player, McCutcheons, also left Oklahoma to go to USC. So he took 3 of Oklahoma's best players, a Heisman caliber quarterback, with him to USC. Of course he's going to do better than Oklahoma did, who no longer has their Heisman caliber quarterback. So I've got, Venables, because he didn't have what Lincoln Riley had or what Lincoln Riley stole, depending on how you look at it. Of course he wasn't going to compete or have the same kind of opportunities to compete as Lincoln Riley did. I'm not sold on Lincoln Riley because once Caleb Williams is gone, then they're going to have to fight. It's not like USC was great on defense. They were terrible on defense this year.
Yeah, but he's pretty dang good about getting quarterbacks with.
Because once you're labeled the quarterback whisperer, you're going to get the guys that come, and you can't really argue with his ability to coach the quarterback position because of the quarterbacks that have been at Oklahoma and the success that they had on the field. But I think Oklahoma is going to be fine. That's a proud university with a rich tradition. Venables is a guy that, he's like a player's coach. And players want to play for him. And I think it's just a matter of time before he gets the right pieces and he gets Oklahoma back to where you expect Oklahoma to be. Sark, I'm still not sold on Sark. I think he's a great coordinator. I don't know that he's a good head coach. But he's got the quarterback talent. So it's about assembling the pieces around the quarterback for them to compete. And, we'll see, because you've got Ewers and then you got Manning coming in. Can he get it together? Because if you've got Ewers and Manning coming in behind it, if you're not competing at an elite level, it's not the players.
Well, and I think they'll do all right. I mean, I was looking at the record this year, 8-4. They're getting better. And let's be honest, man. When Texas is really, really good, it's hard to recruit in the state of Texas if you're not Texas.
Right.
I mean, that's going to affect LSU's recruiting. It's going to affect A&M. It's going to affect Oklahoma.
So in the age of NIL, when you're competing dollar for dollar, there aren't many schools in the country that can compete with Texas as far as putting up money for NIL deals. However, the one school that can are the Aggies.
Yeah.
So,
and they showed that.
We'll see. Yeah, they also showed that Jimbo ain't worth $9.5 million a season.
But think about this: if you got big NIL deal with Texas, big NIL deal with A&M, and then you see Texas on the ascent, and then you see A&M stuck in the mud, I mean, it kind of makes it easy, right? Plus, Austin's actually a pretty cool place.
It's a bunch of liberal hogwash.
outside of that, it's a cool. They got music festivals and stuff like that going on. So I think I'd rather if the money was the same, I think I'd rather be in Austin because I've been to College Station. I'm sure you have too.
I have not.
There ain't much there, dude. Well, if you haven't, there ain't much there.
I can't say that I've ever woken up in the morning one day and thought, I really like to go visit College Station today. Like I've thought to myself, it'd be fun. Let's go take a trip out to Atlanta. Let's go take a trip out to Chicago. Let's go take a trip out to, Dallas and go hang around the steers and queers. But, sorry, I can't help myself.
You're gonna trigger somebody. Oh my God. For the younger people that don't understand, they need to go watch Full Metal Jacket.
But yeah, College Station is not a place I've ever thought about visiting. I might go watch a football game there.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, probably the best thing about going to College Station is you can stop in Brenham to the Bluebell factory. That's probably the best thing about going to College Station.
Brandon says for me to watch it. The cool thing about Brandon is he works for the rail company where you can have steers and queers in the same car. You could be transporting them across the state.
Dude, you better watch it, man. They're going to go on strike.
They already tried. Biden said, no, you can't do that.
No, Biden said a lot of things. But anyways. But no, I really, truly think that when is Texas and Oklahoma officially going to be in the SEC? Like the latest? We know they can probably work some things out and get in a little earlier. When's the latest they're going to be in?
I'd have to go back and look. It could, because it was like a 4 or 5 year thing, but then they were trying to rework a TV deal that could have made it happen sooner. So I was led to believe that it could be like 2 years before they officially enter the conference. 2024, Brandon says. So I would expect that he knows that. Yeah.
Well, being a Tex ass fan. But no, in all jokes aside, I think they'll be all right. We haven't announced what the are they going to be doing the pods or what?
No. I think they're doing one division. It'll just be the SEC. There won't be an East or a West or a North or a South or pods.
So what the Pac-12 does?
Like a round robin.
Okay. But that'd be interesting.
But obviously, so in the Big 12, the round robin works because there's enough teams where everybody can play each other. But when you have 16 teams in the same league, you're not going to be playing each other every year. It's going to be impossible. But it'll be interesting to see because if you're an LSU fan, one of your complaints is, we play Georgia more often than Alabama plays Georgia. Yeah. So we routinely have a tougher road than Alabama does to get to the SEC championship. We didn't have Georgia this year, and neither did Alabama. But more often than not, LSU has the tougher schedule. So how will they decide who plays each other? That's what I was trying to get to. Is it'll be interesting to see what the schedule makers do with the SEC in a single division with 16 teams in it, and because right now as it exists, everybody's got a cross-conference rival. Alabama plays Tennessee every year. LSU plays Florida every year. Georgia, who's Georgia's crosstown? I don't think we have a Dogs fan.
Georgia has Auburn.
So, yeah. So everybody's got somebody that they play cross-conference every year. What happens to those rivalries, I hate Florida, but I wouldn't want to see LSU lose the Florida game every year. I mean,
And it's the same thing with the LSU, Alabama. I mean, and
Yeah.
all these other teams. Can you imagine, for example, a year that Alabama doesn't play Auburn?
or LSU.
Yeah, I mean, that's just odd. But I tell you what would be cool, though, is finally seeing Texas and Texas A&M playing each other again.
Yeah,
Because I really, truly think they should have a team they play every year. For example, LSU plays Florida every year, yada, yada, yada. It'd be cool to see Texas and A&M playing each other, but I'm pretty sure if they're going to have a choice, they're going to have Texas and Oklahoma playing each other, guaranteed.
You're going to have to, because when we talk about rivalry games in college football, you have the game, which is Michigan and Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
You have the cocktail party, Georgia and Florida.
Yeah.
You have the Red River rivalry with Texas and Oklahoma. Those are traditions that you don't ever want to see go away in college football. So when Oklahoma and Texas do move over, it's just going to be rebranded with SEC logos all over it. But
right.
You better believe that game's going to stick around, because it's a huge draw for both of those teams, as well as for the conference, So
personally, I'd like to see it. I mean, call me crazy, but I'd like to see it, on campus, though, rotating every year. I'm not too crazy about the rivalry games that are
but so before
neutral site.
The SEC has been around for a while, but it wasn't always the SEC. You had other alignments and other rivalries that existed before the SEC was formed.
Tulane LSU.
Right. Tulane LSU was a big rivalry at one point. But, Brandon's already mentioned it in a comment. Texas, their biggest rivalries were Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas A&M.
And the old Southwest.
So to get to a position where you could restore all that, I mean, it's going to make money for the conference. And I hate how this has turned into the all SEC show. We already went through all of
we went through all of the bowl games, and it wasn't many. There was like 5 intriguing.
Minutes. Like, this one sucks, this one sucks, this one sucks.
The New Year's Six are good.
Right.
And
CFP good.
CFP.
Who wants to watch?
Who gives a damn bowl? But no, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I would love to see it happen sooner than later, but, I'm guessing, I mean, when are they going to announce how it's all going to work? Because they don't have a lot of time to figure this out. I mean, it seems like a lot of time to 2024, but if they're going to do all this, and they already have, like, for example, they've got LSU playing Clemson in a couple years. If they're going to do all this realignment stuff and bring them in, how are they going to manage all that? So they got a lot of work to do in a little bit of time.
But people that make way more money than you and I, that are way smarter than you and I, are going to figure all this out in time.
Yeah, well, Brandon has a good point. That is a big central point of the Texas State Fair, is that it probably brings a lot of money to the fair. But I don't know. I'm just not crazy about rivalry games being neutral site games, because I didn't know this until I found this out about the cocktail party. Is you can't have official recruiting visits to a neutral site game.
No.
So it takes away, one game that you can actually do that for both teams.
And what bigger game if you're a Texas recruit or a Sooners recruit?
Yeah.
Than that one.
The rivalry game, right? So, but you got to pay on your own dime to go there.
That atmosphere.
Yeah, you got to pay on your own dime to go and do that.
Do you know how big it was for LSU this year to have Alabama in Death Valley,
right?
And the recruiting and the recruits that they brought with them to see that environment with 100,000 LSU fans screaming, and you pull off the upset, and that was a huge recruiting weekend for LSU.
But just imagine if that was a neutral site game.
Yeah.
You lose that. I mean, honestly, would you rather go see LSU versus Arkansas or LSU versus Alabama?
Yeah.
Same thing with Texas. Would you rather see Texas and Oklahoma at either, in Austin or in Norman, or would you rather see Texas versus Texas Tech?
I mean, I want to go to a Texas Oklahoma game. I'm not a fan of either
Absolutely,
school,
and it'd be
but
nice if
it's on my college football road trip. I want to go see Michigan, Ohio State in Ann Arbor and at the Horseshoe. I want to go to the Red River rivalry. I want to
How
go
about
to
a whiteout game at Penn State?
Oh yeah, for sure. I've never been to the Rose Bowl. I would love to go see the Rose Bowl one year.
Shoot, hey, even USC versus Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it just sucks as a recruit.
Traditions across the country. I'm an LSU fan, but I'm a college football fan. I love. I spent my day yesterday when I wasn't doing drill, enjoying college football all day. Friday night too, watching USC get housed by Utah. I was like, wow.
I missed it. I was just on the radio, Sirius XM. I was just like, all right, USC's going to come back. Oh my God, no, they're not.
No. In fact, it's getting worse.
Hey, and what's funny is Utah started to be a perennial Pac-12 power. How funny is that to say?
Yeah.
2 times back-to-back Pac-12 champs. When's the last time that happened?
I think that USC is happy to leave the conference to get away from Utah.
Yeah. Be like, man, they're building something out here. And they weren't originally a Pac-12 team.
Yeah.
They got brought into the conference. So
yes.
It's funny though. But I don't know. I just wish that.
If I'm not mistaken, the Utes are where Urban Meyer, it was either Utah or it was Utah State. Urban Meyer started there and then worked his way to Florida and then obviously to his dream job in Columbus. But Andre froze, so I'm here by myself now. Well, without somebody to bounce ideas off of, I guess I'll just say, I hope you're happy. You can't be happy if you root for Alabama, I suppose.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, my internet cut out.
I was about to sign off. I was like,
I was like, uh-oh, shit. There's a problem.
I was gonna deuce out.
Right. But anywho's. So
all right, well, it was good to catch you, Andre.
Yeah.
I'm gonna head on, go visit with the family.
I was
just going to take another dig at Alabama before I left. I know that most people are happy with their bowl selections unless you're Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama. We told you so. We told you so.
Several times.
2. Hold on. 2 is more than 1. All right, man. Take it easy.
The maths is hard.
Yeah. They don't do math in Alabama.
1, 2.
Just imagine if they still have 3. We're like, what that? Oh, my God. We got to stop. All right, man. We'll catch you later.
Good night, people.